think that I've always been a big fan of contrast, which is kind of the whole overreaching philosophy of what industrial pop is about. It's about blending two seemingly contradictory worldviews, artistic philosophies, whatever. So that type of balance between light and dark is something that I've always tried to include in my work, and that other people are beginning to see that is a great compliment. Hey everyone, this is Daniel Graves from Aesthetic Perfection, and you are watching Talking Records.
This album feels very introspective and even contemplative, like as you deal with themes of faith, mortality, and toxic masculinity. Are you the kind of lyricist that goes deep within yourself for inspiration rather than from the outside world?
I think if you want to understand the outside world better, you need to understand yourself. Because I think if you are unwilling to kind of look within yourself and try to understand the mechanisms, the causes behind the things that you do in your own life, I think you're not really going to have a greater understanding of what goes on in the outside world. And I think that being introspective and trying to figure out why you do the things you do, why you think the way you think, is sort of the job of an artist, right? I think that art is great because it sort of helps people articulate the things that they can't articulate for themselves. So that's always been a big part of what I do and will always be.
The tracks that are more existential from your album, like Supernatural or If I Die, resonated the most with me. Asking about mortality and the legacy we leave behind us. So are those the kind of questions that you also ask yourself with each passing year?
I mean, aren't these the questions that we all ask ourselves? Aren't these the things that keep us up at night? I think this is a sort of universal crisis that every person has, this existential crisis of why am I here, what am I doing, and so I try to write thinking about not just about what's going to matter to me, but what matters to people in general. I've always felt, that I wanted to try to make, like I said, try to make sense of the world by making sense of myself. We all have similar thought patterns, and our brains all work in a very similar way. I think it doesn't matter where you come from, culturally. It's something that we all have to contend with, being human. And when I look inside myself and I see all of the mistakes that I make and all of the terrible thought patterns that I have, I can look at what's going on in the outside world and say, oh, I see why that's happening. I see why people feel this way, why people behave this way. Because I think a big problem with the world now is that so many people act like they don't understand why other people are making the choices that they make. And I think that if you just kind of take a moment and look inside yourself, you can find an explanation.
It's funny that you mentioned this because I was listening to Close to Human, the first Full-length album, and right in the intro with this text-to-speech machine asked these questions, am I who I am because I chose to be, or do you have the control to design the person we want to be and what makes us humans? Like this theme, these questions were with you actually your entire career.
Yeah, I feel like this has just been the goal since the beginning, right? And I don't think that's ever going to change. I think I'm going to spend the rest of my life and the rest of my artistic career trying to make sense of all these questions, because I think as we grow and life goes on, we don't necessarily find all the answers, we just get more questions.
For some time you were releasing only singles, but it was your fans actually that convinced you that you should release also a full album.
Yep.
And you also said that you were releasing singles because you thought that people are not listening to full albums, that the physical format is actually dying. Now, since you released this album on CD, on vinyl, and even on cassette, did your stance of music released in the physical format have changed?
No, not at all. It all goes back to having the fans that I do. I think that if I was another kind of band, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And the reason that I made a full-length album was, as you said, it was because they asked me to. I made it in all these formats because they wanted it. And I think that that's a really special place to be artistically, where it's like, you have your own vision, but you're not so egotistical as to believe that you're always right, that every decision that you make is the right one. And so when I said I didn't think I was going to make an album again, and all of my fans said, no, we want one, I was like, well, I'd be stupid not to make an album. And it was also, from my perspective, an artistic challenge, because I think about, like, painters will take a commission. Somebody calls up a painter and says, I want you to draw me a table or something like that. The painter would not have made that table without the commission, but still the painter painted the table the way that they wanted to. And so I sort of took that approach and thought, okay, I wouldn't have done this without being encouraged to do so, but now that I am doing it, how am I going to do it? And so it was this very special collaborative effort, I feel like, between myself and my fans, and they wanted all of these different physical formats, and I was happy to take the risk and manufacture them. But whether or not that means that other bands should do this, I think no. I think that the climate for physical product is still not great, and I think that if a band is going to take that risk, they should do so because they know that their fans want it.
I gotta say, as a music collector, I don't know if I fully agree with this, because especially with more independent genres of music, like industrial pop, like metal, like rock, I feel like these fans are always willing to support, to buy this awesome gatefold vinyl or the box set.
But you do at least recognize that music collectors, these kinds of fans, they don't represent like the majority of listeners, right? So it's a smaller percentage of music listeners. It's something that you need to be thoughtful. You need to be mindful of what your audience wants and what you can actually sell. And I'm really happy that there are still people out there in the world that want to collect these types of things, because I grew up with physical media. Like, I remember what it was like to sit in my bedroom with a CD or whatever, and just look through the artwork and read the lyrics and all that kind of stuff. I remember that, and I think that's a special experience that shouldn't be like the dinosaurs and go extinct.
Do you collect it now also, or not so much?
I don't, but I'm actually considering starting. So I've recently moved back to Europe. I live in an apartment in Austria that is probably like 3 times bigger than anything I've ever lived in before, and I actually have the space to make like a music room, and so I want to have like a record player, and I have this great view in this room where just out over the mountains and into the forest, and I think it's just like the perfect sort of like listening place.
That sounds awesome. So your current lineup consists of you, Joe, and Elliot. How do you feel about this combination of personalities? How do you click together?
I think this is like the strongest we've ever been. I think as musicians and as people. I think as you get older, you kind of start to realize your strengths and your weaknesses, and with that comes the ability to sort of work in a group much better, and we all sort of like know what we're good at, and we know how to communicate with one another, and it's been just really enjoyable working on music with them, because it's like everybody is equally invested. We all have ideas. Nobody feels like that if they have a musical idea or a performance idea or something like that, nobody feels afraid to talk about it, or if you don't like it, you can say, no, that's not really our thing. We have this great dynamic that is something that I've never had before, and I've been doing this for 20 years. So I think that again, I'm really lucky to be in this place, and these guys are all hard workers and super talented musicians, and they make me look really good on stage.
I love the video Top 10 Rules of the Road from
Yeah.
the YouTube channel.
Feels like only yesterday that me and my band were the new guys struggling to figure out just what the hell was going on. More and more though, people are turning to me for guidance, and in a desperate attempt to distract myself from feeling old, I attempt to help them.
You engage with your fans through your YouTube channel, you chat with them, you do AMAs with them. How did you come up with this idea to be like this? Because not many artists have this close connection with their fans.
I think maybe around 2014 or 2015, I had this sort of realization where I recognized that I had been spending my whole career trying to get things that I didn't have. I want more fans, I want bigger tours, I want this piece of equipment or this or that. It's like all I could think about was what I wanted, and I didn't think about what I had. And when this switch flipped in my head, I was like, I've been doing this for 10, 15 years. I have this great community of supporters. I have people that come to my shows and all this stuff. Why am I not devoting my attention to them and not worrying about what I want? And I think once I started doing that, things actually just started getting better. The fan base started growing, and people who were casual fans became more dedicated fans. It was a really sort of monumental change for me, and so now this is still the philosophy that I take, where you need to just sort of invest your time and your energy into the things that you have and the things that you care about, cultivating them. And you think of it like a plant, right? You got to take care of a plant for it to grow, and that's really what's happened here. So I just kind of listen to them, and when they tell me what they want, I give it to them, because it's something that means a lot to them, and it doesn't take a lot of effort for me, and I find these experiences to be really, really enjoyable. I like making the videos, it's fun. Again, it all comes back to being like, I'm lucky to be in the position that I'm in, and I get a lot of messages and emails from people asking me all these types of questions, and I answer all of them. And I was like, well, why not make a video talking about all these things, and maybe I can help people that either were too nervous to send me an email, or didn't think to send me an email, or anything like that. So it's, I think it's just a cool thing to do.
Yeah, sure is. Okay, so as the last question, I wanted to ask you maybe something a little bit more unusual.
Okay, I like unusual.
Yeah. Growing up as a kid, you wanted to be an actor, living in Los Angeles especially. Mm-hmm. Is it true that everybody that lives in Los Angeles come there with this dream, everybody working in Starbucks or McDonald's, you know that they are actors or screenwriters?
Yes, absolutely. There's a saying that nobody is from Los Angeles, right? Like everybody just moves to Los Angeles, and I'm not even from Los Angeles. I'm from the suburbs outside. So I think that a lot of people, and myself included, when I moved from the suburbs to Hollywood when I was in my 20s, I was like, okay, I'm moving here to get my music career started. But it's a very, very difficult road, and it's not a very forgiving place. And it chews people up and spits them out all the time. I love, as I've gotten older, I've just learned to sort of appreciate the city for what it is. A great place with wonderful weather, cool art museums, amazing food, shitty traffic, and an even shittier entertainment industry. Which, it's nice not to worry about that so much anymore. It's like now I don't even really care about the music business. It's just kind of, I do it all on my own, and they don't worry about me and I don't worry about them, and everybody's happy. But that was the long way of answering your question, is that yes, and when you go to a restaurant in LA, you always know when that person is an actor, because they always come up and they've got like the perfect smile and the perfect hair and the perfect body, and they're like, hi, can I take your order? And it's like,
here's my headshot.
Pretty much. You know that if you said, have you got a headshot, they'd be like, I'll be right back. Yes, I've got it. Or I've got it right here. Here you are, sir. Or I've got my screenplay ready to go. It's what it's like. It's really devastating to sort of like put yourself out there and be treated like, you don't exist by, when people come from small towns to this city, they sort of expect the kind of small town hospitality and stuff to extend to the big city, which it doesn't. And I guess it's a bit naive, but I wish the big city people could be a little bit nicer.
Now you live in Europe. Do you like it? Do you feel at home in Austria?
It's a big change. Los Angeles has something like 13 million people, and my village has 1,200. So it's a change, but I like it. And when I arrived in Nuremberg today, I got off the train, and just the station was packed and full of people, and I was like, I got like very stressed out, because I'm used to not seeing anybody. I got my wife and my cat and my family, and that's really it. And the big city nearby has 30,000 people, so I really live in the middle of nowhere.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching my interview with Daniel Graves from Aesthetic Perfection. If you liked it, don't forget to watch another interviews with artists on my channel and music album reviews. I will see you next time.